The rehearsal dinner was where it started. Or maybe it had been building for years and I just stopped noticing the small cuts until they became deep wounds. "This is my sister Rachel," Diane said, introducing me to the Castellanos. Her future in-laws stood in an intimidating semicircle. Eduardo Sr., stern and silver-haired, Maria, dripping in diamonds, and their daughter Isabella, whose law degree from Yale was apparently the only topic of conversation she knew. "What do you do, Rachel?" Eduardo asked, his tone suggesting polite obligation rather than genuine interest. Before I could answer, Diane jumped in. "Oh, Rachel works with computers or something. Tech stuff. You know how it is, she's always on her laptop." She laughed, that dismissive little sound I'd learned to hate. "Not like Daniel's career in real estate development. Now that's impressive." Daniel, her fiancé, puffed up slightly. Eduardo nodded approvingly. Maria's smile was thin and cold. "Computers," Isabella repeated, her voice dripping with barely concealed condescension. "How quaint. The tech sector is so unstable these days. I deal with technology regulations in my practice actually. The legal frameworks are incredibly complex. Most people working in tech don't understand the bigger picture." I took a sip of wine and said nothing. Let them think what they wanted. "At least she has a job," Maria said to Diane, as if I weren't standing right there. "Some girls just freelance forever, never building real careers." "Is she supporting herself?" "Barely," Diane lied smoothly. "She lives in that tiny apartment downtown. I keep telling her she should look for something more stable, but you know how creative types are." "Creative types." As if my dual PhD in computer science and public policy was a hobby. As if the last 6 years of my life hadn't been spent building the nation's most sophisticated cybersecurity infrastructure. "Well," Eduardo said, clearly losing interest, "the important thing is family." "Diane, tell us more about the honeymoon plans." I excused myself to the bathroom and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from the governor's office. 2 texts from my deputy director. I'd turned off notifications for the weekend, but the world didn't stop spinning because my sister was getting married. "Can you talk?" The governor's chief of staff had texted. "He wants you at the reception. Non-negotiable." I tried to get out of it. I'd explained that I needed to keep a low profile, that my family didn't know the full extent of my work, that my sister's wedding wasn't the place for official state business. "He's insisting," came the reply. "He'll be brief. 10 minutes max. And Rachel, he's announcing the cybersecurity initiative. You're going to be named." My stomach had dropped. "Not here. Not like this. But you didn't say no to Governor Mitchell. Not when he'd handpicked you to run the state's entire digital infrastructure. Not when you'd spent 18 months preventing 3 major attacks that would have crippled hospitals, banks, and the electrical grid. Not when you were about to be promoted to the youngest cabinet-level position in state history. The wedding itself was beautiful. Diane looked stunning in her ivory gown, Daniel handsome in his tuxedo. I sat in the 3rd row, not in the family section I'd noted, and watched my sister marry into the kind of family that measured worth in property holdings and Ivy League degrees. At the reception they'd seated me at table 9. Not with family. Not even with Diane's friends. I was surrounded by Daniel's work colleagues, people who spent the salad course discussing cap rates and zoning variances. "And you're Diane's sister?" one of them asked eventually. "What do you do?" "I work in technology," I said simply. "Oh." He lost interest immediately, turning back to his conversation about commercial development in the waterfront district. From across the ballroom I could see Diane holding court at the head table. The Castellanos flanked the bride and groom, Maria gesturing animatedly while Eduardo nodded along. Every few minutes someone would approach to offer congratulations and Diane would glow under the attention. This was her moment. Her triumph. The validation that she'd made it, that she'd chosen correctly, that her life had turned out exactly as planned. And I was the shameful secret at table 9, the sister who'd failed to launch, whose little computer job was an embarrassment best glossed over. The salad plates were being cleared when I noticed the commotion at the entrance. Security detail, state police, unmistakable in their dark suits and earpieces. The room's energy shifted. People started whispering. Governor James Mitchell walked into the ballroom like he owned it, which in a way he did. 6'3", commanding presence, the kind of politician who could work a room in his sleep. His detail fanned out, professional and unobtrusive. Diane had gone white. Daniel stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his champagne. Eduardo looked like someone had told him God was coming to dinner. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced, clearly having been briefed, Governor James Mitchell. The applause was uncertain, confused. This wasn't on the schedule. The governor wasn't on the guest list. Mitchell made his way to the microphone set up for toasts. "Please don't let me interrupt this beautiful celebration. I promise I'll be brief." His smile was warm, practiced. "I'm here because I need to borrow someone from you folks for just a moment. Rachel Hartwell, would you please join me?" The ballroom went silent. Every eye found me at table 9. My legs felt numb as I stood. The walk to the front felt like miles. Diane's expression had progressed from shock to something approaching horror. Maria Castellano's mouth hung open. "Rachel," the governor said as I reached the microphone, "thank you for indulging me. I know this is your sister's special day, and I apologize for the intrusion. But there's an announcement I wanted to make, and I couldn't think of a room full of people more deserving to hear it first than your family." He turned to address the crowd. For those who don't know, Rachel Hartwell has been serving as the Director of Cybersecurity Infrastructure for our state for the past 6 years. In that role, she's built one of the most sophisticated digital defense systems in the nation. Eduardo had his hand over his mouth. Isabella's Yale degree suddenly seemed very small. "What most people don't know," Mitchell continued, "is that Rachel has personally prevented 3 major cyber attacks in the last 18 months. Attacks that would have shut down our hospital systems, compromised our banking infrastructure, and disabled our power grid. We're talking about potential casualties in the thousands, economic damage in the billions." Diane had tears streaming down her face. Not happy tears. Rachel's work is classified at the highest levels. She operates in the shadows, without recognition, without glory. She can't tell people what she does because national security requires her silence. But her contributions to public safety, to the security of every person in this state, are immeasurable. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Which brings me to my announcement. Effective next month, I'm appointing Rachel Hartwell as the state's first Chief Technology Officer. She'll have cabinet-level status, reporting directly to me, with a mandate to oversee all digital infrastructure across every state agency." The applause started slowly, then built. People at nearby tables stood. Within seconds, the entire ballroom was on its feet, except for the head table where my family sat frozen. "Rachel will be earning $420,000 annually," Mitchell said over the applause, "making her one of the highest-paid public servants in state history. She'll also be the youngest person ever appointed to our cabinet, and the first woman to hold this position. Additionally, the federal government has asked her to consult on the national cybersecurity strategy. She'll be splitting her time between our state capital and Washington, D.C. He turned to me, speaking into the microphone but clearly for my benefit. "Rachel, you've spent 6 years being one of the most important people nobody's heard of. I think it's time that changed. Your work has saved lives. Your brilliance has protected millions. And you've done it all while letting people underestimate you." His eyes found Diane at the head table. "Family should be our biggest champions. But sometimes family can't see what's right in front of them. I hope after today that changes." He handed me the envelope. Inside was the official appointment letter, the state seal embossed in gold. "Congratulations, Madam Chief Technology Officer. Your state is grateful, even if they didn't know enough to be grateful before." The applause kept going as the governor shook my hand, whispered, "You earned this," and left with his security team. I stood at the microphone, 200 people staring at me. At table 9, Daniel's family looked stunned. Isabella, who had mocked me earlier, suddenly looked eager to network. "I'll let you get back to the celebration," I said. "This is Diane and Daniel's day. Sorry for the interruption." On my way back to the table, people kept stopping me, wanting to talk policy, ask for my card, suddenly very interested in my job. The next toasts fell flat. No one was paying attention. Even the maid of honor cried for reasons that didn't feel joyful. During the cake cutting, Diane pulled me into the venue's library. "You couldn't let me have one day," she snapped. "You had to bring the governor to my wedding? You had to make it about you." "I tried to stop him," I said quietly. He insisted. "Director of Cybersecurity? Cabinet-level salary? And you let us think you were barely surviving. You let me tell everyone you had a little computer job. You made me look stupid." You did that to yourself, I said, finally done being polite. I never lied. You never asked. Not once in 6 years did you ask what I actually do. You just decided I was a failure because I didn't brag. That's not fair. It is, I said. At the rehearsal dinner, you told people I could barely support myself. That tiny apartment downtown? It's a 2,500 square foot loft I own outright. I paid cash. Her face fell. You told Mom I'd never amount to anything. You told Dad I wasted my degree. You called my work a little hobby for 6 years because it made you feel better. I softened a little. I love you, Diane. But you were so focused on looking successful that you didn't see when I actually became successful. I didn't know, she whispered. You didn't ask, I repeated. I turned toward the door. I'm leaving. I already said goodbye to Mom and Dad. Congratulations. Truly. Rachel, please. My deputy director is waiting outside, I said. There's a situation in the Northern District. Weekends aren't really a thing for the CTO. I paused. By the way, the wedding videographers recorded everything. The governor's speech, everyone's reactions. I'm sure the footage will be unforgettable. I left her standing there, mascara streaked, her perfect day falling apart. In the car, my deputy handed me a tablet. Northern hospitals are showing system issues. Might be nothing, might be a breach. Connect me to the command center, I said, already reading the data. Cancel my Monday meetings. If I'm right, we'll be working all weekend. The governor's speech was something, she said carefully. Feel okay about it? I thought about Diane's face, about Maria Castellano's shocked expression, about Isabella's sudden silence. About 6 years of being dismissed and diminished while I quietly saved lives and protected infrastructure. Yeah, I said. I feel okay about it. My phone buzzed with texts. Mom apologizing, claiming she'd had no idea. Dad asking why I never told them. Friends from college who'd seen the speech go viral online. Someone had posted it to social media and it was already trending. And one from Diane. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Can we talk when I'm back from the honeymoon? I'd respond eventually. Maybe we'd rebuild something. Maybe we wouldn't. But I was done apologizing for being underestimated. Done shrinking myself to fit their narrative. Done letting family be an excuse for disrespect. The tablet pinged with incoming threat data. I dove into the analysis, leaving Diane's wedding and Diane's drama in the rearview mirror where it belonged. Some people spend their lives proving their worth to people who won't see it. Others just quietly save the world and let the truth speak for itself. I'd finally stopped caring which one my family preferred.